Are you ready to hear a harsh truth about your yard? If you are planning to wait until July to start dealing with weeds, you have already lost the war. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are talking about the ultimate lawn care secret that landscaping companies do not want you to know. I promise you, by the end of this video, you will look at your spring lawn in a completely different way. You see, most people think that pulling weeds in the middle of summer is just a normal part of owning a home. But what if I told you that doing one specific easy thing right now, in the month of May, will literally cut your summer yard work in half? Yes, you heard that right. If you miss this crucial window, the weeds in your yard will multiply by 2, maybe even 3 times when the heat hits. So, put down that weed puller for a minute and let us talk about how to stop the invasion before it even begins. Tell me in the comments, do you actually enjoy pulling weeds, or do you absolutely hate it? To understand why May is so important, we need to take a quick trip back in time to last autumn. Before the winter snow fell, every single weed in your yard dropped thousands of tiny, microscopic seeds. These seeds are incredibly tough. They survived freezing temperatures, ice, and heavy rain. They have been sitting in the top layer of your soil, sleeping in a state of dormancy. But they are not dead. They are just waiting for the magic combination of sunlight, moisture, and warmth. For decades, professional golf course keepers and professional landscapers have known that the transition period between cold spring rains and hot summer days is the only time you can truly gain control. The soil acts like an incubator. Once the dirt reaches a specific temperature, a biological trigger goes off. The seeds germinate, push their way to the surface, and start stealing water and nutrients from your good grass. We are going to disrupt that entire cycle. Let us start by looking right under your feet. Right now, your lawn might look like a peaceful green carpet, but just below the surface of the soil, an invisible army is waking up. Millions of tiny weed seeds have been sleeping in the dirt all winter long. They are just waiting for the perfect moment to strike. This moment arrives in the month of May. When the spring sun finally warms up the ground, it acts like an alarm clock for these seeds. This is not just a guess. This is basic plant biology. Every single square foot of your yard contains thousands of dormant weed seeds. They were blown in by the wind last year, or dropped by birds, or even carried in on the bottom of your shoes. If you do not stop them right now, before they break through the surface, you will be fighting a losing battle all summer long. Imagine trying to stop a massive flood after the concrete dam has already broken. That is exactly what pulling weeds in July feels like. But right now, the dam is still totally intact. You have a very narrow window of time to build a protective wall. If you miss this window, the seeds will sprout. Their roots will dig deep into your soil, and your relaxing summer weekends will turn into back-breaking labor in the hot sun. We absolutely need to stop them while they are still asleep in the dirt. So, what is the big secret? It all comes down to a concept called pre-emergent weed control. Let us break down what that actually means. Most people wait until they see a big, ugly weed growing in their grass, and then they spray it with a chemical or try to rip it out. That is called post-emergent control, because the plant has already emerged. It is a terrible strategy for a lazy gardener. Pre-emergent is completely different. It is a specialized product that you spread over your lawn and garden beds before anything starts growing. Think of it like an invisible force field or a magical blanket that sits just under the surface of the soil. When a weed seed wakes up and tries to push its tiny green shoot up toward the sun, it hits this invisible barrier. The barrier stops the plant cell division right there on the spot. The weed simply dies in the dirt before it ever sees the light of day. It never grows leaves, it never grows a deep root system, and most importantly, it never gets the chance to drop more seeds. This is the exact same method that keeps professional sports fields looking completely flawless all season long. You are literally preventing the problem from existing. Now, timing is absolutely everything when it comes to this invisible shield. If you put it down too early in the spring, it might wash away with heavy rain before the seeds even wake up. If you put it down too late, well, the weeds are already up and the shield is completely useless. So how do you know exactly when to do it? It has nothing to do with the calendar date and everything to do with the temperature of your soil. The magic number you are looking for is 55 degrees Fahrenheit. When the soil temperature reaches 55 degrees for about 3 to 5 days in a row, the worst weeds in your yard begin to germinate. In most parts of the country, this happens right in the middle of May. But do not just guess. You can actually buy a cheap meat thermometer from the grocery store and stick it 2 inches into the dirt. If it reads 55 degrees, it is time to go to work. This simple step takes 2 seconds, but it guarantees that you are hitting the weeds at their most vulnerable moment. Let us dispel a huge myth right now. The air temperature does not matter at all. It could be 80 degrees outside, but if the dirt is still cold from a freezing night, the seeds will stay asleep. Always trust the soil. Let us talk about the ultimate enemy of the summer lawn. I am talking about crabgrass. If you have ever had crabgrass, you know exactly how awful it is. It is that thick, ugly, bright green grass that spreads out in massive flat circles, choking out everything in its path. A single crabgrass plant can produce up to 150,000 seeds in one season. Just let that sink in for a moment. One single weed turns into thousands of new weeds by autumn. The absolute worst thing about crabgrass is that once it gets big and established in July, it is incredibly difficult to kill without damaging the good grass around it. But here is the good news. Crabgrass is incredibly weak and sensitive when it is just a tiny seed. The pre-emergent barrier we talked about is crabgrass's worst nightmare. By spreading this granular protection over your lawn in May, you are specifically targeting the crabgrass life cycle. The seeds will try to sprout, hit the barrier, and die instantly. If you have a history of crabgrass taking over your driveway edges or the sunny spots in your yard, this May treatment is not optional. It is the only way to save your sanity. But what about the rest of your property? Lawn care is not just about the grass. We need to talk about your beautiful garden beds, your flower patches, and the areas around your trees. These open patches of dirt are prime real estate for summer weeds. The strategy here is slightly different than the lawn, but the timing is just as urgent. In May, you must focus on the power of mulch. Now, most people think mulch is just for making the garden look pretty with a nice dark colour, but that is a huge misconception. Mulch is actually a heavy-duty physical weed barrier. When you pile 2 to 3 inches of wood chips or bark over your garden soil, you are doing 2 very important things. First, you are completely blocking the sunlight from reaching the dirt. Without sunlight, the weed seeds buried underneath cannot wake up. Second, you are creating a thick, dry layer that makes it almost impossible for new weed seeds blowing in the wind to reach the moist soil and take root. Mulch is like armour for your garden. If you leave your dirt exposed in May, nature will quickly fill that empty space with weeds. Nature absolutely hates empty dirt. However, there is a very right way and a very wrong way to lay down mulch in May. This is where so many homeowners make a massive mistake that actually causes more problems. The biggest error is making the mulch layer too thin. If you only sprinkle a tiny bit of mulch, just to add colour, you are doing nothing to stop weeds. The sunlight will still pierce through, and the weeds will grow right past the wood chips. You need a solid, dense layer that is at least 2 or maybe 3 inches thick. But beware of the opposite extreme. Do not pile the mulch up high against the trunks of your trees or the stems of your flowers. We call this the mulch volcano, and it is a terrible idea. When you pile mulch high against the bark of a tree, it traps moisture and causes the tree trunk to rot. It also encourages insects to live right against the bark. So, remember the golden rule of spring mulching. Lay it down thick, keep it flat like a pancake, and leave a little breathing room around the base of every plant. A thick, flat layer of mulch applied in May will keep your flower beds nearly perfectly clean all summer long. Now, let us tackle one of the biggest landscaping myths in the world. I guarantee you have seen those giant rolls of black landscape fabric at the hardware store. They promise to stop weeds forever if you pin them down under your mulch. Do not buy them. I repeat, do not put landscape fabric in your flower beds in May or any other month. Here is exactly why this is a terrible idea. Over time, the wood mulch you put on top of the fabric will break down and decompose into dirt. At the same time, the wind will blow dust and new weed seeds right on top of your fresh mulch. Eventually, weeds will start growing right on top of the fabric, and when their strong roots push down, they will weave themselves directly into the heavy plastic mesh. When you try to pull that weed later in the summer, it will be anchored into the fabric like concrete. You will end up ripping the whole sheet of plastic out of the ground. Landscape fabric also chokes the soil, preventing earthworms and vital nutrients from reaching the roots of your expensive flowers. Skip the plastic. Stick to a thick layer of natural mulch. Your soil will be healthier, and your summer weed pulling will be much easier. Let us shift back to the grass for a moment, because there is another physical trick you must start practicing in May. This is arguably the simplest weed control method on the planet, and it requires 0 chemicals and 0 money. It is all about how you use your lawnmower. Most people make the critical mistake of mowing their grass as short as possible. They think that cutting it super short means they will not have to mow again for a long time. This is a huge mistake, especially in the spring. When you scalp your lawn down to the dirt, you are exposing the soil directly to the hot sun. Do you remember what weed seeds love more than anything? Warm soil and direct sunlight. By cutting the grass short, you are basically rolling out a red carpet and inviting the weeds to grow. Instead, starting right now in May, you need to raise the deck on your lawnmower to one of the highest settings. Aim to keep your grass about 3 to 4 inches tall. Let me explain why this tall grass strategy is a total game changer for the summer. When your grass is thick and tall, the individual blades cast long shadows down onto the dirt. This creates a cool, dark environment at the soil level. Weed seeds sitting in the dark, cool dirt simply will not germinate. They will stay asleep. Furthermore, tall grass has deeper, stronger roots. When the summer heat arrives and the rain stops falling, grass with deep roots survives, while shallow, short grass dies and turns brown. And when grass dies, weeds immediately take over the empty brown spots. Think of your tall grass like a dense forest canopy. The thicker the canopy, the less sunlight reaches the forest floor, and nothing can grow underneath it. If you only change one single habit this May, let it be raising your mower height. Stop giving your lawn a buzz cut. Let it grow thick and luxurious. A thick lawn is the absolute best natural weed defense that exists. The weeds simply cannot compete for sunlight, water, or nutrients when they are surrounded by strong, tall blades of good grass. Of course, a thick lawn does not just happen by accident. If you look closely at your yard in May and see bare patches of dirt from winter damage or a dog digging holes, you have a major vulnerability. Weeds are incredibly opportunistic. They will always find the weak spots in your armour. If you leave a patch of bare dirt sitting open in May, I can promise you it will be a jungle of weeds by mid-July. The solution here is immediate overseeding. You must fill those bare spots with good grass seed before the weed seeds have a chance to claim the territory. Take a metal rake, scratch up the hard dirt so it is loose, and sprinkle a generous amount of high-quality grass seed over the area. Lightly cover it with a little bit of compost or peat moss to hide it from the hungry birds. If you do this early enough in May, the warm spring rains will help that new grass sprout quickly. Once the new grass fills in the gap, it locks the weeds out completely. You are basically playing a game of real estate. Whoever claims the dirt first wins the summer. Now let us talk about the weeds that are already green and growing. I am talking about the notorious dandelion. The yellow flowers might look cheerful to some people, but they are a nightmare for your lawn. Dandelions are not annual weeds like crabgrass. They are perennial, which means they come back year after year from a massive, thick taproot that grows deep under the ground. Have you ever tried to pull a dandelion by the leaves? You usually hear a snap, and you are left holding a handful of green leaves while the giant root stays safely buried in the dirt. Here is the frustrating truth. If you snap the top off a dandelion in May, the root will simply push up 3 new flowers in exactly the same spot a week later. Pulling them by hand without getting the entire root is a complete waste of your valuable time. To truly defeat the dandelion invasion before summer, you need to use a specific strategy that attacks the root system directly. To destroy dandelions and other broadleaf weeds in May, you need a selective liquid weed killer. The word selective is incredibly important here. It means the chemical is scientifically formulated to only kill weeds with wide leaves, while completely ignoring the narrow blades of your good grass. When you spray this liquid onto the green leaves of a dandelion, a fascinating process happens. The plant absorbs the liquid through its leaves and slowly pulls it all the way down into its deepest root system. It basically poisons the weed from the inside out. Over the course of about 7 to 14 days, you will see the weed start to curl up, turn a sickly purple colour, and completely shrivel away into nothing. Because the chemical destroys the root, that dandelion is gone forever. May is the absolute perfect time to do this, because the weeds are actively growing and absorbing nutrients very quickly. If you wait until the extreme heat of late summer, the weeds actually close their pores to save water, and the spray will just sit on the leaves and do absolutely nothing. When it comes to spraying liquid weed killers in May, you have 2 choices. You can do a blanket spray, or you can spot spray. Let us talk about why spot spraying is usually the smarter, cheaper, and safer option for most home lawns. Blanket spraying means attaching a huge bottle to your hose and spraying your entire yard, edge to edge, with chemicals. While this is fast, It is incredibly wasteful if you only have a few dozen weeds scattered around. You are putting chemicals where you do not need them. Spot spraying is the sniper approach. You buy a small pump sprayer, mix the product with water, and walk around your yard looking for specific targets. You only pull the trigger when you see a weed. Give it a quick squirt and move on. This method uses about 90% less product, saves you a ton of money, and is much better for the environment and the healthy parts of your lawn. Taking a 20-minute walk around your yard with a spot sprayer every weekend in May is all it takes to maintain a perfectly clean lawn. We must also address a very common mistake people make when spraying weeds in the spring. You have to pay close attention to the weather forecast. Do not spray weeds if it is going to rain in the next 24 hours. If you spray the leaves and then a heavy spring thunderstorm rolls in, the rain will completely wash the product off the weed and into the street. You will have wasted your time and your money. You also need to watch the wind. Spring days can be very breezy. If you spray liquid on a windy day, a microscopic cloud of the product can drift over to your prize-winning tomato plants or your beautiful rose bushes and severely damage them. Always choose a calm, dry morning to do your spot spraying. It only takes a little bit of patience to do it right. And remember to wait at least 2 days after mowing before you spray. You want the weed to have plenty of leaf surface area to absorb the liquid. If you just chopped all the leaves off with your lawnmower, the spray has nothing to stick to. Let us take a moment to talk about feeding your lawn, because a well-fed lawn is a weed-fighting machine. In May, your grass is waking up from a long winter sleep and it is incredibly hungry. This is the time to apply a high-quality spring fertilizer. Grass needs nitrogen to grow thick, green, and healthy. When you provide the right nutrients at the right time, the grass roots expand quickly, completely dominating the soil beneath the surface. Weeds, on the other hand, are scavengers. They love poor, compacted, unhealthy soil. If you starve your lawn, the weeds will gladly take over the barren wasteland. But if you feed your lawn a steady diet of nitrogen in the spring, the grass will grow so vigorously that it will literally push the weaker weeds out of the way. It is like feeding an athlete before a big game. You want your grass to be the strongest competitor on the field. But make sure you do not overdo it. Too much fertilizer can actually burn the grass, creating dead spots where weeds will quickly invade. There is a very specific type of fertilizer product that is incredibly popular in May, and it is called Weed and Feed. You have probably seen hundreds of these bags piled high at your local garden centre. It sounds like the ultimate lazy gardener solution, right? It promises to fertilize your grass and kill the weeds all at the exact same time. But I want to give you a serious warning about these combined products. They are often less effective than doing the 2 steps separately. Here is the problem. Granular weed killers need to physically stick to the wet leaves of a dandelion to work properly. If you spread a weed and feed product on a dry, sunny afternoon, the little granules will just bounce off the dry weed leaves and fall uselessly into the dirt. The fertilizer part will work, but the weed killer part will completely fail. If you insist on using a weed and feed, you must apply it early in the morning, while the grass is still totally covered in sticky dew. Otherwise, you are just throwing money away. Let us talk about the edges of your property, because this is where the weed war is often lost. Pay close attention to the borders where your grass meets the concrete driveway, the sidewalks, and the street. Concrete absorbs a massive amount of heat from the sun. In May, the soil right next to your driveway is much warmer than the dirt in the middle of your yard. Because it is warmer, the weed seeds in these edge zones will wake up and germinate weeks before anything else. It is very common to see a perfect lawn in the centre, but a terrible strip of ugly crabgrass running along the edge of the sidewalk. To stop this, you need to pay special attention to these hot zones. When you are applying your pre-emergent barrier, make sure you overlap the edge of the concrete slightly to guarantee full coverage. And when you edge your lawn with a string trimmer, be very careful not to scalp the grass down to the dirt. Leave the grass thick and tall right up to the concrete line to shade that hot, vulnerable soil. What happens if your neighbour does absolutely nothing to their yard in May? We all have that one neighbour whose lawn is a complete disaster zone of dandelions and thistles. You can spend hours perfecting your own yard, but when the wind blows, millions of their weed seeds are going to fly directly over the fence and land in your beautiful grass. It is incredibly frustrating, but you cannot control what your neighbour does. What you can do is maintain a heavy defensive posture on your side of the property line. Keep your grass extra thick near the border. Be diligent with your pre-emergent barrier. And if you see a few invasive weeds sneaking under the fence line, hit them immediately with a spot spray before they can produce their own seeds. You are essentially building a green fortress. The stronger your grass is, the less chance your neighbour's lazy habits will ruin your summer. It takes a little extra vigilance, but defending the border in May is crucial for a clean yard in July. Let us discuss organic and pet-safe alternatives for May weed control. Many people are totally opposed to using synthetic chemicals in their yard, especially if they have dogs, cats, or young children playing in the grass. This is completely understandable. The good news is that you can still practice excellent weed prevention in May using natural methods. For a pre-emergent barrier, look into a product called corn gluten meal. This is a natural byproduct of milling corn, and when spread over the lawn, it naturally prevents root development in sprouting seeds. It also breaks down into organic nitrogen, giving your grass a gentle, safe feeding. For killing broadleaf weeds that are already up, you can use specialized sprays made from high-concentration iron or natural acidic vinegars. These organic sprays literally burn the leaves of the weeds without poisoning the soil. They require a bit more frequent application than strong synthetic chemicals, but they offer true peace of mind. May is the perfect time to start an organic lawn care program before the weeds become too massive to control without heavy toxins. As we reach the end of our May checklist, I want you to think about the psychological benefit of doing this work right now. Landscaping and yard work can feel overwhelming, especially when the weather starts getting hot. There is nothing worse than walking outside on a beautiful 90-degree Saturday morning in July, wanting to relax with a cold drink, but realizing you have to spend 4 hours on your hands and knees ripping thorny weeds out of your garden. It completely ruins the weekend. By spending just a little bit of focused time in May, spreading your barrier, laying your mulch, and raising your mower height, you are buying back your summer freedom. You are doing the smart, strategic work early, so you do not have to do the brutal, manual labor later. Think of it as an investment in your future happiness. A weed-free lawn is not just about making the house look nice for the neighbours. It is about creating a low-maintenance outdoor living space where you can actually relax and enjoy the best months of the year. So, here is the incredible plot twist to everything we just talked about. The weeds that are going to ruin your yard in August are already sitting right there in your soil today. They are quietly waiting for you to get distracted. They are waiting for you to put off the yard work for just one more week. But now you know the secret. You know that by acting immediately in May, you can build an invisible shield, shade out the invaders with tall grass, and trap them under a heavy blanket of mulch. You have the knowledge to completely change the trajectory of your summer lawn. Do not let the weeds win this year. Take control of your property right now. Thank you so much for watching and learning with us today. If you found these spring landscaping secrets helpful, please hit that subscribe button and give this video a big like so we can help more people save their lawns. And before you go, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, what is the absolute worst, most stubborn weed you have to deal with in your yard? Let us talk about it in the comments. See you in the next video.